Hello everybody and welcome back to the WebCoach series. Today we're going to be talking about how you can develop good study habits, which is actually going to come in handy as you begin to prepare for your final exams. Before you can develop good study habits, you need to understand the keys to success. And the first key to success that we have is define your objectives. You have to figure out what your end goal is and how you're going to get there. So again, define all your objectives. And number one, what are your objectives? Well, I'm hoping that it is to become a CGA. So first and foremost, you want to be a CGA. You want your designation. That is your long-term objective. But what are the objectives that are actually going to get you to that point? So that's the cherry at the end of the day. What's it going to take for you to get there? Why do you even want to become a CGA? Well, only you can answer that question. Is it for career advancement? More pay? How will that designation help you achieve that overall objective? For me, back in the day when I was a student, it was for career advancement. That was my end goal. That's why I wanted to be a CGA. So the things you have to step back now and think about are, what sacrifices are you willing to make? You know your long-term objective, great. Now determine what are those sacrifices that you're going to make to achieve those objectives. Because as you know, nothing comes easy, nothing comes for free. So like you, I'm currently in the same boat. I'm working on my MBA, and it will advance my career, as will the CGA designation for you. And I had to sit down and determine what I was going to sacrifice. For free time was the first thing. I have small children, and I knew that I was going to miss out on doing some things with them. So only you can sit down and determine what you are willing to actually sacrifice. It is a lot of work, and at times you may feel defeated as you're sitting there studying or doing assignments. So you're going to define your objectives. How many courses do you intend to complete each year, and when do you plan to graduate? Because you've made the commitment to be in the program. So next you need to decide as part of your objectives how many courses you intend to complete each year. For example, if you worked in public practice, so that means you're doing income tax returns, financial statements, etc., many have a lot going on during tax season, so you're just not willing or even able to study during those months. So you may choose not to even do a course at that time. Or you just want to get this over and done with as soon as possible, and as a result, you decide to do a course each semester. When it comes down to is when you plan to graduate. Do you plan to graduate in 5 years, 6 years, 2 years? You then have to keep that in mind when you started in the program and how much time CGA has provided for you to complete the program, as you will all have been provided with that end date. So if you've walked in to the CGA program with some credits, so they're giving you some transfer credits, you won't get the same time period as somebody who's starting with the CGA program from scratch. So keep in mind what CGA has said your end date is. Let's say it's 5 years out. But that doesn't mean you have to take 5 years. You could finish it in a couple of years. But it all depends on the number of courses you're going to take. So again, some of you will take the maximum time limit, and some will try to finish as soon as possible. By you sitting down and taking the time to plot out when you would like to complete the program by, this is going to alleviate some of the pressure you will feel because it's going to help with that objective. The next key to success, and the next thing you must consider, is how are you going to budget your time? So the first thing you should do is try to fit study time into your normal routine. Most courses require you to study or concentrate on your readings, etc. When I say study, I mean everything, for about 20 hours or so a week. So I don't know about you, but where do you find 20 hours a week to study when most of you work, have extracurricular activities, children, maybe you do some volunteer work, etc. Some students say they don't need the 20 hours, and some take more than 20 hours a week, but only you can determine what it is you are going to need. One thing that you can do is actually make a grid of what each day would look like. And here is an example of a grid. So a grid like this details out what you have to do each and every day. That way you'll notice, or the first thing you're going to notice is everything you do. You're breaking it down. We're talking sleeping. We're talking working, eating, family, exercise. All of it is listed here. And it is supposed to add up to 24 hours. Once you figure out how much time each day is being used up on those activities, you could then determine how many potential hours are available for your studies. I know that some of you, before you even plot any time in for your studies, will come up with more than 24 hours a day or possibly less, but only you can determine what you're going to give up. So this is a good base. You sit there and you figure out, how long it's taking you to do all of this on an average day, and then if you're figuring out, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours a day to study, well, where are you going to find the time if you're already at 24 hours? Or if you're less than, you will have that additional space. You have to figure out when you're also going to have a life. Because, folks, you need to find time to have a life. Again, 20 hours a week or so on your studies, you still need to have that balance. And it's hard. It is hard to just work and study and do your daily chores and your routines. But you have to try to find the time to spend with your family and your friends. Don't keep putting off your studies or assignment completion either. So procrastination will kill you. When you procrastinate, your stress levels will go through the roof. And trust me, your assignment quality will suffer. You won't do as well. So if you pace yourself, the quality of your work will increase, and you'll find that your ability to grasp the actual material increases when you're not stressed out trying to do so. If you're working with any software courses, it is also best that you load the software early on your computer system and begin working with it, because the night before an assignment is due is not the time to try to figure out that you can't load software or even navigate through it. So again, get your assignments done early and you won't run into those issues at all. So another thing that you can do to help you budget your time is make sure you set your plan for the weeks and the months ahead. You can use any calendar or a BlackBerry, iPhone, Outlook, Google, whatever it is that you've got, paper calendar, and plot out every day what you need to get done, and make sure you do leave yourself a little time to help you accomplish whatever it is you need to do. If you recall, you can get your assignment, quiz, and discussion schedule from the online learning environment. So in that respect, you can sit there and plan your entire study schedule. Make the most out of your time when you are budgeting your time. Again, don't leave studying to the few weeks before the exam. You should be looking at the material and starting to review it right from week one. And that helps if you keep up with the modules. Get your module notes if you do any module notes, which I'll talk about in a moment. Get them done for module 1 in week 1. Get module 2 done in week 2. This way you're not scrambling at the end to do it. Try to combine travel with your studies, such as reading, flashcards, audio notes. So this is extremely helpful. So for example, if you're on the GO train, instead of reading the newspaper, maybe do some review of your actual course materials. You can save your course modules in PDF. You can download them to your laptop, a Kindle, an iPad, a playbook, and or you can even create some flashcards either on paper or electronic means. Actually, if you do like the electronic kind, I'm going to type out a website. This is what I use, and it's www.flashcardexchange.com. You may actually find that there are some students in the CGA program that have already created flashcards, and you could just go through them and edit them and keep a copy for yourself, or you can create your own. Don't forget, you can also download both the webinars and lecture material from the CGA site and also listen to them at your leisure. Sometimes having that in your ears when you're on the train or you're in the car even is a lot easier because you feel like you're at least getting something more accomplished other than sitting there. Find a good place to work if home isn't the place for you. Some of you, home is great. Home may not be the place to study, a comfortable place to study for some of you. I know in my household, I can't study at home. I can when nobody's home, but the minute people are home, I just can't do it. So it's busy. The kids are all over the place. So I actually go to work late at night and study at my desk. Some students like to go to the library. Some like a coffee shop. Whatever fits for you and whatever is effective for you to be successful is where you should be going. Make sure where you study is well lit and allows you to stay alert. Your study environment should also be a place that allows you to stay alert. Good lighting, a surface appropriate for working on, a good chair but not too comfortable. Studying in bed is nice and cozy and warm, but it's probably not the best place. Why? You're not going to stay alert. You're going to want to go to sleep. So think of a good place to work, well lit, good surroundings. That way you've got the ability to stay awake and get through the material. When it comes to some of those courses, folks, like AT1, SA4, you're going to do your best to try to just stay awake going through the material, let alone putting yourself in an environment that doesn't allow for that. I know some of those courses are dry, but you still have to learn them. Be an active learner. Use your notes, create diagrams, read aloud. Everyone needs this in their own way, but you're not going to do everything. So depending on your learning style is going to determine what you're going to do to be an active learner, if you're going to at all. Work with your material. Read it out loud. Draw some diagrams. Practice problems. So do whatever it will take to make you comfortable with that material. It's not about memorizing. It's also about applying it. Memorization is good to a point. That'll get you the basics. But if you can't apply the material, then you're going to have trouble in the exam situation. The next key to success is develop a study plan. So we've been talking about that when we're talking about budgeting your time, but actually try to develop a proper study plan. So figure out when you're going to read your module notes and your assigned readings. Within your study plan, you should make the time to read and reread the module notes and assigned readings. I know some of the material, again, can be tough and dry and boring, so try and break it all down into small chunks because you will need to get through it all, or risk the chance that what you didn't review is on the final exam. A lot of the courses also have additional resources to help with your learning, but again, you need time to be able to go through all of it. Summarize the material in your own words. While you're looking at the material, summarize it. This is a very effective way of retaining and understanding the material because you are actually using it. I know it can be difficult to do with some of the courses, putting those items into your own words. However, if you try, at least that attempt will help you retain that information. Listen to audio lectures. If your course has audio lectures, listen to them in conjunction with the notes that are provided because it will help you work through the material. I would also re-listen to the audio material as a review tactic at the very end. Complete your assignments. I know for some of you, for some of the courses, you don't have to submit all the assignments because once you've achieved enough points, you qualify to write the exam. Again, this is not the case for all courses, such as the PA. PA, you have to actually submit everything. But for the lower level courses, this is all it is. But even if you've qualified to write the exam, complete all the assignments. And if you're not handing them all in, still do them in full. If you complete the assignment and submit it, again, even if you've qualified, at least you're going to get feedback from the marker. And that feedback is very important when you are studying. And at the end of the day, as part of your review session, I do recommend that you redo all of your assignments, again, to put you in that frame of mind before you do any practice examination. Use the online resources. Back to online resources. Many courses do offer a wealth of online resources to assist you in your learning, and it is recommended to go back and try to work through as many online resources as possible, including using the discussion boards, academic boards, the online lecture or course director. You can't forget those people tools. Those tools remind you that you are not alone and isolated and that there are others suffering just as you are. So if you're stressed, you're frustrated, or you don't understand something, use that academic discussion board. Connect with your peers. You have a question, connect with your course director or your online lecturer. They are there to help you. If you recall from the previous WebCoach webinar, I actually discussed the learning pyramid. So again, for those of you who didn't listen to it, this is the learning pyramid, and it describes how a person can learn and retain information. Recall is lower for lectures than for any other instructional approach because lectures leave students, as we call, passive consumers of information. So all you're doing is just listening and not doing anything with it. That's why lecture is at the lowest, it's at the tip, but it's also the lowest amount of recall. As you work down the pyramid, you will notice by doing any of those other items, you start to retain more and more information. So the more you do with the information in your course modules, the more likely you're going to remember and learn it. So if you attended the online webinars, read the material, etc., you will retain more and more. So just reading it, 10%. Demonstrating the material, practicing it, 30%. Practice doing it, Teaching others, you're going up to 90%. So the more you do with the actual material, the more you're going to retain it. But you have to figure out how well you need to know the material, because that is going to guide you on your study plan. And this, again, was discussed last session, so I'm just going to quickly go through it again. So level 1 is an essential level. And here you have to obtain an in-depth understanding of the concepts and the principles. You have to have those technical procedures down pat, and you must become proficient in the knowledge. So level 1, when you talk level 1 on an exam, you need to demonstrate what we're going to use the word is mastery. You have to know your stuff. You have to have mastered conceptual and technical aspects of the topic, whatever the topic is. So skills developed here and are examined, we're looking at comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Level 1 material will usually be in the form of problem-like questions. So it could be a case, it could be just a general problem depending on the course, but they're going to be something where you're going to have to prove your knowledge of the material in depth. Level 2, on the other hand, is comprehension. So here you have to have a broad understanding of concepts, principles, and procedures, and develop a working knowledge of those procedures. So on an exam, you have to be prepared to demonstrate understanding of the conceptual aspects and a topic and apply some technical skills. Here, comprehension and application are those skills that are being examined. Now, you can still get a problem that tests a level 2 item, but it would be either weighted lower than a level 1 problem or just be a component of a much larger problem or even a multiple choice question. Level 3 is background knowledge, and here you have to identify common reference document and sources and acquire a general knowledge of broad topic areas. On the exam, that means you need to be prepared to demonstrate that general knowledge, so you won't be required to answer in-depth questions. Skills developed here are considered recall and general knowledge, and again, you will not be required to answer in-depth questions on a level 3 topic. Just recall it, or you might have, if it's part of a in-depth question, it would be one little component or a problem or a multiple choice question. So again, why is all this important? Well, it's going to help determine what you're going to focus your studies on. You will not spend most of your time mastering a level 3 concept, but you will spend, or you should, I should say, spend most of your time developing a level 1 concept. So when it comes to your weekly study plan, you've got your module notes, your assigned readings, and your learning objectives. So your weekly plan should consist of reviewing your module notes, your assigned readings, and your learning objectives that you will find at the start of every module. If you don't do the assigned readings on a week-by-week basis, you're going to run into problems because it's easier to digest and work through it in pieces than trying to do it all at the end. So the other things your weekly study plan should entail to help you is summarize the material in your own words. Try to remember to do this step. Summarize the material under each learning objective, because this will help you remember it, retain it, and also make sense for you. And if you do this on a weekly basis, it'll help you remember it, bottom line, and make sense. It can be quite overwhelming if you are trying to do this the weekend before the exam versus many weeks before the exam. Plus, a lot of the material builds on each other. So if you never really understood what happened in Module 2, Module 3 is going to be tougher to get through. Module 4 is going to be even tougher to get through. So learning and making sense of the material early on will help you achieve more successes later on. Other things you should consider is audio lectures. Listen to them because there are lectures available for each module. And there's also, if you're not in the audio lecture stream, you have an instructor-led, which has a weekly webcast for each module. So review the audio lectures on a week-by-week basis, and I would actually go back and revisit and re-listen to them as part of your final study plan before the exam. There will be a lecture available again for each module, whether you have the audio lecture option for the foundation level, or if you're part of the instructor-led, you will have a weekly webcast for each module. Remember, if you're part of the instructor-led program, you can also participate live in the lectures, and even if you can't make that night or day, they are archived, so you can go back and review them at a later date. Complete each assignment. Again, I can't reiterate this enough. Assignments help to reinforce your learning. They help with your retention, and it's a good guide for studying and for your exam prep. I cannot stress enough to do all the assignments and then reuse them as part of your study plan. Assignments, again, are going to reinforce your learning and test you on the material you have just reviewed. It helps you to retain that information because you're reviewing it and then trying to re-explain or apply the material in the form of an assignment. It is also a great guide for studying and preparation for the exam. And if you go back to my learning pyramid, it's going to get you lower and lower on the pyramid, which means higher and higher retention. The next key to success is be committed. You have to be committed to want to do this. You need to stick to your study schedule. I know life happens, but you'll have to try and mitigate those issues and keep on track. You have to deal with all of those issues. Remember that some courses will naturally be much easier for you depending on your background and experience. So I would plan taking those courses at times when you know you will be busier with life's actions. Again, for example, if you're in public practice and tax season is quite heavy for you, and if you want to take a course, I wouldn't, and if you're, let's say, weak in managerial accounting, I wouldn't take managerial accounting in the spring session, which runs March, April, May, June, because that's smack in the middle of tax season. And you're going to probably need more than 20 hours a week to get through those studies. So what I would recommend for you is, take a course that you're familiar with. If you're a tax accountant, tax may be the one you want to take. So again, you have to figure out your schedule and stick to it, but that's where planning those courses and when they land will be of much assistance. Be prepared to put in the required effort. If you're not willing to put in the time, don't even bother. Put it off. Try to maybe take the course at a later date because you have to be ready to put in the effort. Expect that the process is difficult and slow. If the process was easy and quick, your designation would be worth nothing at all. The fact that it is difficult and slow puts more weight on the CGA designation that you are trying to earn. More weight on the designation means more for you in the future once you attain it. Expect to adjust your study schedule as you find the perfect fit for you. You may need to adjust your study schedule on the fly. Trust me, this has happened to me many a time. You also have to be flexible in your schedule for unseen events. Again, happened to me. As I've stated, I'm also a student working on my MBA, and I have been forced many times to adjust my schedule, move a few hours this week to next, or take a look at what is coming down the pipeline and adjust at that time. I want to be successful, so I realize that I will have to adjust it accordingly depending on what is happening. But always leave some time in your schedule. Your children, work, maybe you got sick, new babies have arrived. You have to be able to adjust for any unforeseen and foreseen events, or your stress levels will go through the roof if you're unable to do so. Try to develop a positive attitude. Keep positive. I know at times it can be quite stressful, but a positive, healthy attitude will keep you going. What I used to do is have all my courses on a board, and each time I was finally done one, I would cross it out cross out the course on my board. When I was down and out, and I'm upset that I blew an assignment, or guess what? Even when I failed one of my exams, I had to get over it quickly. So what I would do is take a look at this board and say, you know what? I only have so many courses left to do. I learned really quickly that I can't be perfect at everything, but I developed that positive attitude to say, you know what? I'm doing my best. Some of it's going to be harder than normal. I'm not perfect, but I can do my best. And that positive attitude is going to get you far. Again, find that regular place to study. Find it, and it has to make you comfortable. You need to have your spot that's going to help facilitate a good learning environment. Find that place that's going to get you there and get you mentally ready to study. Eliminate distractions. You have to learn to eliminate all the distractions that will interfere with you being successful. This could be your email, your phone, your BlackBerry, Facebook, and even those items that are not physical in nature, such as issues in your life. You're mad at your boss, you're stressed out, it's month end. Get those issues, put them aside, eliminate those distractions when you are ready and committed to study. Please don't make your study periods too long. If you plan 3 to 4 hours a day, chances are you won't be able to accomplish that. I personally chunk out my study periods into max 1-hour sessions, as anything more than that for me is not feasible. So I don't have periods longer than an hour. What I do is I do an hour and I go and do something else. I come back, I could study for another hour. So overall, I may be studying 3 or 4 hours in a day if it was on the weekend, but I'm not doing it all at once. I need to stretch, I need to go have something to eat, I need to go make a phone call. That's when I would check email, Facebook, anything else. You've got to avoid mental exhaustion. And again, you can do that by keeping your study periods short and sweet. If you're mentally exhausted, you won't be successful because you're not going to want to study. Now, what are the benefits of all of this? Well, right off the bat, first and foremost, you're less likely to fall behind. Sometimes there are some hiccups, but it will be easier to recover if you have a week or two to catch up on versus learning 10 modules at the very end. So some weeks it's going to be crazy. You're going to lose out on that time. But again, catching up on 1 or 2 weeks is one thing. Catching up on 10 is a lot. You also won't feel very overwhelmed as you are breaking everything down into bite-sized pieces. This is going to make you successful each and every week because you're going to feel like you've accomplished something, and it's going to keep your stress levels at a minimum and lower than if you left it to the end. It also helps you to develop, the best study habits that are good for you. Everybody's got the thing that'll make them successful. You've got to determine what is it exactly in terms of time, where to study, etc. Structured study leave time for other things. Structured study time does not leave time for any other things instead of putting everything aside to say, you know what, catching up. Don't do that. Structured study time is one thing, then leave time for other things. In addition, got to keep in mind that the courses are not cheap. They're quite expensive. So let's face it, you fail, you're coming back to do it again because you want to get that designation. So turn around and keep that, there is a cost component to it. Again, what about if you drop out of the course? If you drop out too late, you may be penalized with the times examined. And you don't want that because there are some courses that you may turn around and fail, as upsetting as it may be. However, you want to be able to recover from those because after so many times examined, you won't be able to take that course, therefore you won't be able to complete your designation. Also, a deferral to another session can mean you're faced with new material, and I've seen this happen. So it could be a new module note, it could be new textbook. You are responsible when you defer an examination to another period. You are responsible for the latest and greatest material. So you could be looking at something completely new, which means more time for you to put in and learn the new material. And this was a big shock for some students, especially last year because of the new gap. You needed to know all 5 handbooks, but all of a sudden you learned the handbooks pre-changeover gap, so pre-IFRS. So a lot of students at the last second that were deferring their materials realized they had changed so much, they were relearning what they thought they had sort of learned before. And again, if the course is a prerequisite for another course, delaying the course you're doing may mean that you're delaying a future course. And then you're looking at your timeline as to when you want to finish your designation. Or what about sessions? You may have to wait to a different session. It may not be offered the next session. It may be offered a few sessions out. So if you took it in the fall and you deferred, you may not be able to take that course again till the spring or the summer, depending on what CGA has set up. The last key to success, enlist some support. Last but not least, you're going to need to do it. And this can be from your workmates, your family, other students, anybody. Only you can determine what support you need, and don't be afraid to ask for it. You're really not alone in this process. Sometimes it may seem that way, but you are not alone. And that was something that I had to keep remembering as I was going through the CGA program myself. So hopefully I was able to assist you with developing some good study habits. Thank you for listening to today's WebCoach seminar, and I hope to connect with you all soon. The last and final one that you will be posting in the near future will be on exam preparation techniques to get you all set and ready for your final exams. Have a great one, everyone. Cheers.